Hey, what's up, you guys? This is Movie Critic Rob here with the Movie Channel, and tonight, because it is night right now where I am, we are talking about the newest movie, which is a team-up between Walt Disney Pictures and Steven Spielberg, the BFG. Now, the BFG is based on a book written by Roald Dahl, who also wrote Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. I did not read the book. I was not a fan of the BFG book. I don't know anything about the BFG book. So this is coming from, just to give you a warning, a person who was open about it, who really had no preconceived notions about any book, about anything, just wanted to go in and see what Walt Disney Pictures and Steven Spielberg happened to pull off. With that said, this is a non-spoiler review for BFG just before you continue watching, and you will get no spoilers in this film, I promise you, other than the premise, which is really basic. But that's not to say that the movie itself is bad. So here we go, the BFG. Now, you know, when you attach a team up like this to a movie, and this team up has never ever happened in the history, Walt Disney Pictures and Steven Spielberg. I'm going to be talking about this a lot because this is something we've never seen before, and we finally have it. We live in a world where Steven Spielberg has teamed up with Walt Disney Pictures to give us a movie. And the question on everybody's mind that hasn't watched the book, that hasn't read the book like me, is, does it hold up? Absolutely. If there's something that Steven Spielberg does well, and he does a lot of things well, and let's count on. He does action adventure well. He does family-friendly films well, and he also does historical films well, and films based on books, because Jurassic Park, for example, is based on a book. For those of you uninitiated who didn't know, just like the BFG, Jurassic Park, one of Steven Spielberg's most beloved movies, was based on a book. So this guy knows what he's doing. Not only that, but Lincoln, which he directed a few years back, was also based on a book by Doris Kearney or something like that. I can't remember. But so he's no stranger to adapting books to the screen. With that said, I like Lincoln. You know the story of Lincoln, but you don't know, exactly what the book says. I watched Lincoln, and I watched it like I watched BFG. So I'm going to give you kind of my thoughts like with Lincoln, even though I didn't do a video for Lincoln because I didn't have a channel back then. But I'm going to approach it in the same way. As somebody who just is looking at it from a film perspective, not a fan of BFG, the book, and critiquing it from there. From the beginning of this movie, and I knew that it was a Spielberg film, I knew it was a Walt Disney film, but from the beginning of this movie, you get what Spielberg tries to do every time. And I'm not saying that in a negative way. When he does a movie, especially because he does a lot, he's done Aliens a couple of times, he's done a lot of things that would be considered fantastical. He tries to sell you on the human character, because this is representing your point of view going forward. And for him, if he doesn't sell you on the human aspect, he will never sell you on the fantastical aspect. We follow a little girl whose name I can't remember, but the actress was absolutely fantastic. And we're seeing her. She is in her situation. She's lonely, and you feel for this girl. You know that she's adventurous because she's like sneaking around and just doing kid stuff, and I love that. I love a kids movie that shows you children, like, and it harkened to me like to the days of E.T., for example, and even Jurassic Park to a certain extent, because in both of those films, you follow, at least from an audience's point of view, in Jurassic Park, you can pick. You want to pick the adult point of view, or you want to pick the kid's point of view. But in E.T., for example, and I'm going to draw a lot of comparisons to his past work, because he has a certain style, and it works really well. And it really worked with BFG, because the girl in this was absolutely amazing. You believed her. You believed in who she was and the pain she was feeling. Everything landed, and I liked that. And in that, Spielberg sold us again on another character before the main attraction, the BFG, ever comes onto the screen. And so you're going through this adventure through the eyes of this girl, which is something that Spielberg does absolutely fantastically. And in the first act, you get what I call the Steven Spielberg effect. This is, and J.J. Abrams replicates this really well as well, because he loves Steven Spielberg and he grew up on Spielberg films like most of us did, where, you know, it's that pause and that look at awe at what you're looking at. That even though the girl herself didn't do the signature "it's a dinosaur," you know, moment that you'd expect that was in Jurassic Park, for example, and other Spielberg films, you as the audience are the ones doing that to what's going on in the screen. When the BFG is introduced, it's great. It was not what I expected. And again, I haven't read the book, so I don't know much about how it is done in the book. But I like that it wasn't the stereotypical, "Oh, there's a monster. Oh, I'm gonna go and play with it." No, it was very much the. See, you know, I can't. I don't want to spoil it for you guys, but it was done in a great way that is missing a lot, I think, in films where they, you know, because whenever you get a main character, you know he's the main character, and in this one, even though you know he's the main character, the way that they do it, it was so natural and so fun, that you buy what they sell. Like, and I'm gonna draw a comparison now to a non-Spielberg film, but something that he produced, which you really can see, at least in the first 2 acts, his fingerprints, and that's the first Transformers film directed by Michael Bay. Michael Bay managed with Spielberg here in Transformers 1 to replicate that feeling of wonderment and of awe, and to introduce these characters. Bumblebee, who was the one we were first introduced to from the robotic side, that the way that he's introduced is very natural, very organic, very fun, and not just, here's the main hero, you know. So I like that, and BFG does that, where the way that the main character is introduced, it was done in a great way, a fun way. This movie, let me just go off on a little caveat here. This movie was fun, and I like that. I like that, especially now in the July 4th weekend, we have a film for kids. Now, when I was in the theater, and I'm not knocking parents at all, there was a girl, and she started to cry at the beginning, and she sounded really young. She sounded like a baby. But I like that there is a movie that has nothing. I think there was one joke that I think, if I heard it correctly, it was a really off-color joke that they hit it perfectly, like Pixar does. But other than that, I like, back to my original thought here, I'm going off in a lot of places today, that you can take a kid to, and that you don't have to be careful of what's going to happen. And E.T. was one of those that does that. Jurassic Park was marketed as a kid's film, although I don't think it is a kid's film, at least not a young kid's film. But, you know, there's that. But really, I mean, I could compare this movie to E.T. a lot, because it really felt like this generation's E.T. in a sense. Even though it wasn't an alien, and there is an explanation, and, you know, it's an outlandish explanation, but you buy it, and you're in it, and he has sold you from the first 5 minutes of this movie to watch the rest of it and believe it and love it, and you fall in love with the character of the BFG. You fall in love with the world that the BFG inhabits. When he and Sophie is the name of the girl. Woo! I remembered. When Sophie and the BFG are talking, when they're bonding together as characters, you feel it. And then when they have that moment, you know, that painful Spielberg moment at the end, and for those of you that have watched Spielberg for a long time, you know what it means. And for those of you that watched the BFG this weekend, you know what it is. It is heartbreaking. I was like, Spielberg, I hate you, but I love you because you give me such good moments, but at the same time, you're gonna make me cry in this theater. it was great. I loved it. I love the antagonist in this movie because it was interesting. Because again, I'm trying not to spoil anything, so I'm keeping a lot of things in code for when you watch it. But let me just say that well, I'm not going to say it. You know what? I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to spoil a thing because I want you guys to experience this movie and see it as I saw it with nothing spoiled whatsoever. The one thing I will say, and this was in the trailer, so that's the only thing I'm going to say. The parts with the Queen, and you see it in the trailer, kind of. You see parts of it. The scenes with the Queen of England were some of the funniest scenes I've ever seen in a movie in years. And I loved it. It was absolutely hilarious. It was great. But at the end of the day, I mean, the movie was great. I thought it was beautifully done. The entire crew is the same crew that Spielberg always uses. And again, they nail it just like they always do. Janusz Kaminski is the cinematographer here. John Williams does the score, which is absolutely brilliant and beautiful. I mean, this is Spielberg at his best, and it works. And I loved it. I really recommend you go see BFG. There's 3 movies out this weekend: The Purge, Legend of Tarzan, and the BFG. I've only seen BFG so far, and here's the review for that. And I will be watching the other 2 at some point. I think I'm going to go see Tarzan on Monday, and I'm going to see The Purge tomorrow. So I will review those. But if you have, and I like it because they, at least from what I've seen of Tarzan, it's more of the teenage movie film. It had a line, though. I will say that Tarzan, and we got there right in time for BFG to start, but Tarzan had a line. So I'm excited to see that because people want to see this film from what I saw in my theater. But I like that this weekend, because it's July 4th weekend, you have kind of every, 3 movies come out, and they're very specific. One is for really family-friendly film. That's the BFG, which I just reviewed. Hi. That was kind of weird. The other one is The Purge, and that one is really for adults, and don't put your kids to go see The Purge. Please don't do that. And the third is Legend of Tarzan, which from the feeling that I'm getting, is for more teenagers and older kids that like Tarzan, but I don't think it's going to be Disney's Tarzan. It's going to be a realistic Tarzan, and I'm looking forward to that. But this has been my review for BFG. I really want to know what you thought about it, so please, by all means, drop down in the comments and let me know. Also, if you tell me, here's what I want you to do, which I've never done before, but I'm going to give y'all a question, and I want y'all to answer it in the comments, to those of you that watch the video. Which movie, if you haven't seen any of the 3, are you most excited for this weekend? And even if you have seen 1 or 2, which one are you the most excited about to see this weekend? The Purge, Legend of Tarzan, or the BFG? Drop your comments down below. This has been Movie Critic Rob with the Movie Channel, and as always, I am now signing off.